Resume green orbit.
Hello and welcome back to my channel. When it comes to video gaming, I am what is known as an OG. I started playing video games right when they first started coming out, and I'd like you to join me on this journey so you can see the humble beginnings of video games up until the present. Like many people back then, my first exposure to video games was back in the mid-1970s. And besides the pinball games, it was then that I first played the Atari video game system. As you can see here, there are many versions of it, but the one that is probably most familiar to majority of people is this video gaming system in this picture. It was here that I first played the game of Pong, which captured my imagination and my love for video games. Pong was nothing more than a simplistic game of hitting an electronic tennis ball back and forth, but man, back in the day, that was something else. It was a lot of fun just to sit there and do that, and it led to, what we have today. And as a side note, the company Atari, the maker of the game Pong, was so popular back in the day that it was even featured in the Blade Runner franchise, especially the first movie. And then as I got a little older and into high school, my friends and I used to hang out at the local video arcade where every game cost $1. And I'll have more to say about the video arcade later in this video. Then in 1981, I purchased my first home computer, the Texas Instruments TI-99 4A, which had a bunch of games that came with it that were extremely fun to play. The four that I remember the most were Alpiner, Dig Dug, Parsec, but of course my ultimate favorite was Tunnels of Doom. And this game had 10 levels. You went down in the dungeon to go rescue the king. You had to conquer all the monsters in each level as you went down, and then you had to fight different monsters all the way back up. And it would take a few hours. In fact, I would have a friend over, we'd get a bag of chips, some pops, and play this game for hours, sometimes late into the night. And all this video game playing was done on a computer system utilizing a black and white small screen television. And now we are entering the late 1980s when I received my first Nintendo Entertainment System. Similar to the one pictured here on Amazon, this is a knockoff in the picture. However, the original one had game cartridges that you put in, and I remember my favorite one was a game called Castlevania. And it was a game system to be shared with the entire family. And now we enter the 1990s and the rise of the PlayStation game systems. I used to have a PlayStation 1 that broke years ago. That was my first PlayStation. I really liked it. Got introduced to a lot of good games that way. Of course, out of all the games, my ultimate favorite was this Resident Evil 2 game. Not to brag, of course, but to me, I thought I was so good at it, I probably could have tried to do a speed run through it. The PlayStation also allowed the playing of classic games from the Atari system. And now we move into the era of the PlayStation 2, which to me was my favorite game system. Every other PlayStation since then, in my opinion, has just been a updated version of the PlayStation 2. Back then, this was the Mac Daddy of game systems, in my humble opinion, of course. And these are the PlayStation 2 games that I have, and to me, a lot of them are the classics. But my most favorite of all the video games was Resident Evil 4, a very scary game. My youngest son also plays on his PlayStation 5. Now, back in the day, you used to go to the arcade to get the video game quality experience, but these at-home systems now can supply the same experience that you had in the arcade, while in the comfort of your own home. And what was great about PlayStation 2 was also these games called Rock Band and Guitar Hero, where you added peripherals and can actually play and sing music.
So happy together.
Now moving on to my PlayStation 3, I also love this system. The only fly in the ointment, though, as I remember, was when Sony's database, its user database, was hacked and everybody's personal information was at risk. Other than that, though, the games are pretty cool. I like especially the Call of Duty games. Now, when it comes to my PlayStation 4 system, I do have to say the graphics are pretty good. I only have a few games, though. Call of Duty, of course, Resident Evil 2, the upgraded version, as well as Castlevania. You can see here I've taken some game systems out of storage. These were games that my kids used to play. Now that they have their own kids, I wanted to get these out and see if they still work. I was able to find a newer PS2, and when I say newer, I mean it's newer than the one I had. Half the thickness, same functionality. Found this Nintendo 64 with all these game cartridges. Got the Nintendo GameCube. Now here are the GameCube games. These little CDs fit in the palm of your hand. Although I don't see it, this is for a Nintendo DS, these games here. Age of Empires, Nintendo Dogs, Animal Crossing, and Lost in Blue. We're going to connect all these systems and see if they still work. Process of elimination, we'll find out which controllers go to which games. As soon as I untie this Gordian knot of all these wires here, see which wires go to which system. It's been many years since we played these games and these game systems, so it's going to take me a while to figure out how to operate them, how to play them. I also had a Sega Dreamcast and a Xbox. Fortunately, I cannot find those systems at this time. They do have some of the parts, as well as some of the games. Some of the Nintendo games that I found was Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 and Blitz, the League. And some good news, I did find the PSP. It's like a game device using a controller. And I found the game discs that go with it. SOCOM, Grand Theft Auto, Family Guy, Need for Speed, The Warriors. Great movie, by the way. All right, now let's set these up and see which ones work, which ones don't. See if we can have some fun.
Still on, and we're going. Cyrus sent an emissary this afternoon to make sure.
All right, looks like we have liftoff for the PSP game system. All right, this is going to be the test now to see if we can get this old Nintendo 64 gaming system to fire up, and let's play some games. All right, looks like that first cord, the original cord that came with the Nintendo 64, did not transfer the signal to the TV. So we're going to try this adapter now with the RCA adapters. If we can get a clean signal now on this new Vizio TV. And this is the test. Okay, still not getting a signal. Alright, for the Nintendo 64, I think I'm going to have to get a adapter that can adapt to HDMI. We'll try that. I think I can get it at Walmart. In the meantime, I've got the Nintendo GameCube connected. Let's see if we can fire that up. Yes, Houston, we have liftoff. Alright, we've got Luigi's Mansion here for Nintendo GameCube. Yeah, look at the size of that thing.
Mario! Huh?
All right, let's try out this PlayStation 2 system, see if we can get it to work. This is ATV 3 Off-Road Fury for PlayStation 2.
Boo! Failure!
Game Boy Color. This one is Donkey Kong Land. All right, the Game Boy system turns on, but I can't get it to do anything besides go up and down. Let's take a closer look at it, see what we can do. If worse comes to worse, on the back of the system is a phone number for Nintendo. We can try calling that and see if they still pick up and answer.
Thank you for calling Nintendo. Let's connect you to a specialist quickly. Let's get started.
Para asistencia en español, oprima el número 9.
I have an old Game Boy Color system that I can only get I'm playing Donkey Kong, and it only makes the Donkey Kong go up and down. I can't make it do anything. It's a Game Boy Color system. So with my kids, I'm just trying to make sure it still works. What year did this come out? Tell me, 1997. You know what? I pressed one of the buttons a different way, and it seems to be working. sells in. Well, thank you very much. One other quick question while I got you on here. I also have a Nintendo 64 that I took out of storage. And I use the RCA cables from an adapter, and I can't get it to show up on a new TV. Do they make something where it can convert it to an HDMI? Oh, outstanding. Thank you very much. All right, take care. Bye. Now, although the home systems are a lot of fun to play and they have a large variety of games, there's nothing like going back to an arcade and actually playing the original games. So my son and I went into a arcade called Underground Retrocade. This is located in the town of West Dundee, Illinois. And when you walk into the establishment, you can see just in this counter shot here all the different toys and gadgets and games that are from the 80s and 90s. Now here is just a basic quick walkthrough of just the first floor of this arcade. You notice just the amazing amount of video games they have here. Many of them are the classics, and I'll show you those in a little bit in the video. And of course, I'm going to have to blow off the dust and shake off the rust when it comes to playing these games, as it's been many years since I first tried to win and conquer these games. So let's do it to it. Alright, here's Dragon's Lair. I never could get this paperwork. This is actually the first video game in an arcade I ever tried to play back in high school. And back then, and up until today, I still can't get this machine to work. And here we have Space Invaders, one of the true classics of the video game industry. Started playing this game actually in college in the early 80s. And of course, we also had to get the Mario Brothers and Donkey Kong games in there. Those were also some classics, especially with the home game systems, and also very fun to play. Now, this game of Frogger is actually one that I started playing on the home game systems, so it's a little different playing it in an arcade game, but still, it's just as fun and strategically challenging. All right, let's find, where'd you say Mortal Kombat is? Upstairs. And we are now on the second floor, and as you can see, the machines look like silent sentinels waiting our presence and activation.
Original, second.
Let's do the original. The original.
They got Tekken too. You should also do one of those shooting games.
Yes. Where's Sub-Zero? Which one is he?
That one.
Sub-Zero.
Of course, when I was asked by my son why I wanted to play Sub-Zero of all the characters, that's because I met the actual person who played Sub-Zero, John Turk, actor in California now. John is a really nice guy and has his own fan base going. Now, of course, you knew we would have to get to yet another classic of Pac-Man. When I was in college back in the early 80s, Pac-Man, Space Invaders, and a game called Wizard of War were my trifecta of video games. They were my ultimate favorite, and to this day I'm still looking to get a copy of Wizard of War. And back then there was always the dilemma, should we use our quarters to play the video games, or should we use the quarters in the washers and dryers for our clothes? Major dilemma all the time. Now I have to try the racing games here. Just wondering why this game sounds like I'm driving a Good Humor ice cream truck. Of course, my son places second in his video racing game. Now, I had to try my hand at this style of racing. However, I have to say, once you're situated inside this booth, I think Houdini would have a hard time escaping from it. Now we have the fun and friendly father-son basketball shootout. Let's see who the ultimate victor is here.
3, 3, 3.
Well, thank you for joining me once again in the Wayback Machine as I pay homage to all the video game systems and games since the start of my odyssey in video gaming and arcades. So until the next video, take care and